Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Couple Synergy Live with Dr. Ray and Jean and myself, Angie. There is a wonderful topic tonight that we would love your thoughts on, and we would also love you to ask questions in the comment section. Because of the upcoming holiday, a highly requested topic was why it is easier to be resentful than to practice gratitude. That's a question that's come up a lot, and we'll talk all about it tonight. Now, before we bring Dr. Ray and Jean in, I just want to remind you that there's an awesome opportunity coming up early next spring, and that's the Couple Synergy Weekend Intensive. And so we're going to watch a short little video to remind you and show you how beautiful it will be.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean, and we're so excited to offer you this Couples Weekend Intensive.
Too often we hear about couples who are in love with each other, but just feel like something is missing. Their relationship has become something they long for, but their lives are driven by work, children, and everyday stress, leaving no time to nurture their connection.
Just like a flower needs sunlight, water, and care, a relationship is its own living, breathing entity. Without proper care, it will wither. So we've created this fun weekend where couples can have a space to breathe life back into the most intimate parts of their relationship and create new levels of connection.
On this weekend, you will learn what it takes to create and grow an amazing relationship. We've taken out the guesswork, so all you have to do is just show up and let us show you the way.
All right, and so now let's welcome Dr. Ray and Jean.
Hey, Angie, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing wonderfully. I'm glad we're doing one of these.
I know. So are we. Hello out there, Couple Synergy Land. How's everybody doing? Happy Thanksgiving Eve. The eve of Thanksgiving, right? And you know what, Ange? It's really strange, but this background seems really familiar. I think I've seen this background before in some previous Facebook Lives. Yeah.
Yes.
Because we are coming to you live from DC, and we are in Angie's studio right now as we speak. So,
Watching the mountains that we left to come here.
that's right. Looking at that video, oh my gosh, it's just we missed the mountains already. So thank you for having us in your studio, Ange, and thank you for hosting again another Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn Live.
You're welcome.
Energy. We love doing these. I love doing these.
Are you being grateful?
I am being very grateful that we are here live with all of you all and joining us today and talking about this great topic, on this week of Thanksgiving, because I think we all kind of lose the essence of what Thanksgiving is supposed to be about. It becomes about the bird, right?
Well, if you talk about airing your grievances, which they did make a fake holiday, right, to air your grievances.
That was Seinfeld that did that.
But we don't need to focus on that because that energy moves so much faster. Our brains are actually designed to see that negativity because we have to respond faster. So whenever something is bothersome, it is so easy to talk about. In fact, if you're talking to strangers, it's difficult to talk about much else. and say, how you doing? Well, I was stuck in traffic and this crap happened to me and this crap happened to me. And if you say, how you doing? You go, I'm great. What else are you going to say?
I'm
Not much more
I'm
to talk
good.
about.
I'm
Yeah.
fine. I think that the best answer I've ever heard was, I'm unbelievable.
That could be anything.
That could be anything, right?
But gratitude is something that you have to actually pay attention to and focus on and make an effort.
You have to practice it. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, one thing my father says all the time when you ask him, how are you doing? He says, I am grateful. Right? And he's
Yep.
been doing that for maybe a good 6 to 8 years now.
My dad
About
used to
10
say,
years.
what a glorious day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, when you're greeted like that, it makes you feel better. It uplifts you. And it's really good for our health, our physical health, our mental health, emotional health. But it takes some effort.
Well, I think when you say I am grateful, you're not saying that what you're going through is good or bad, right? You could be going through a difficult time. You could be going through a challenging time. But what you're saying is that I am grateful that I'm actually able to go through it, right? That I'm alive, I'm here, I'm existing, I am experiencing whatever it is I'm supposed to be experiencing right now, whether it's good or bad. And I have some gratitude for that. And I have gratitude that I have, people around me that support me, people that I love, people that are my family, friends, and that sort of thing. And grateful for the moment, right? And too often what happens is that we become so distracted by where we should be, right? The places that we're going, the places that we think we should be at, and we lose focus of the point that we're at in the moment, right? Because who knows what's going to happen in the next moment? We have no idea how long we're going to be here, and if we lose focus of the here and now, then we lose the opportunity of experiencing the here and now.
We also, through life, we collect experiences. And we have this thing called emotional contagion. So I don't know if you've ever seen a baby laughing, but pretty good chance you're going to start laughing because there's an emotional contagion that happens. If someone is angry and nasty to you, you're going to get that emotional contagion too and feel about things. And if you look at little kids, like if they're 5 years old and you're like, hey, it's going to snow, they're like, woohoo, it's going to snow. But if you talk to someone who's 35, like, oh my God, it's going to snow. And they've had this life experience that leads them to more fear and worry, which moves so much faster. Then, of course, you have everyone reminding you, hey, it's going to snow. It's going to snow this much. It's going to start this time. And if you have this problem, you're going to have that problem, that problem, and that problem. But when you're a little kid and you're innocent, you're just like, woohoo, I'm going to get up at sunrise, or I'm going to do whatever it is they're excited to do because they don't have all that negativity yet.
Yeah, it's very easy to take things that you're going through and make it into a tragedy or make it into the worst thing possible. And having gratitude, I think it really makes you refocus, and really look at, even if you're going through a difficult time or something challenging, that there's something in it, right? There's something to learn from it. There was this movie called Spirit. You remember that movie, Angie? I think it was Disney movie, right? It was
With the
animated.
horse?
It was about the Mustangs, the Mustang horses.
Yeah, I never saw it.
Hey, Tina. Hey, thanks for joining us. Wow. Hey, you guys were on a vacation just recently, I think, right? I hope it was a really awesome time, and I hope you were grateful to be able to be out in the sun and tropics. So, yeah, the movie um, Spirit, right? So it's about a wild Mustang, and he meets this Native American, and they're both kind of fighting for their own survival. And there's this one scene where he gets on the back of this horse, and they're running away from these troops.
Captivity.
Yeah, in captivity. And The horse is really the one that's driving everything, and the Native American is just on for the ride. And at one point, the horse decides he's going to go jump this canyon. And, the Native American's like, really? Is that what you're going to do? Okay, I guess I got to just, hold on. And so the horse runs and jumps across this canyon. And in mid-flight, Native American just puts his arms out like this.
And let's go.
And let's go. And he has no idea what the outcome is going to be. He doesn't know whether they're going to live or die. But in that moment, he is just like soaring in the air and experiencing the sunlight and just that moment of ultimate freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that really encapsulates gratitude. Right. And it's not something that comes easy. You have to really work at that. You have to, mentally choose to be grateful in a moment where you might be going through something really, really tough.
When you think about your thoughts, how many of your thoughts are not in this moment? How many of your thoughts are about something you screwed up, something that happened that bothered you in some way, or some worry about the future of something that might never happen?
Mm.
And a lot of our time is wasted in that place. When you talk about that jump and that freedom, you have to be present for that. And we have so much that takes us away from this moment of us knowing what we feel right here, right now. And we see that a lot of people, they have no idea who they are anymore. They're so busy worried about what they've got to get done or what they didn't get done. People like, I don't want to take a vacation because I'm going to come back to this big pile of work.
Yeah.
And stuff like vacation, like Tina was just on, that's where you're present. You're present because there's nothing else. You don't have to get your mail. You don't have to check in anywhere. And, with travel, maybe you're going to be a little late. Maybe you'll be early. Who knows how things go? You have to have a lot of tolerance to travel these days. But you're present. And that being present is so good for us.
Mm-hmm. In comparison to resentment, which it really doesn't take much to be resentful. Mm-hmm. Really. I mean, just travel through O'Hare Airport during a holiday, you could get resentful just like that very quickly. It just go through traffic. Okay. Get stuck behind a huge line, and you don't get your latte the way you wanted at Starbucks. you easily can get resentful. Yeah. It doesn't take much. And, what we're saying is the contrast here is gratitude takes practice, right? It takes a huge amount of effort to actually be grateful about something. Resentful is a flash in the pan, and it just happens just like that because of a frustration that we're going through. And what it does is resentment, it brings up, or the difficult situation you're going through, it just tugs on this string that's attached to everything that you've ever been resentful about in your entire life. It just pulls on it instantly and brings it right to the surface. Whereas gratitude, you have to dig deep. I mean, think about, if you just, right now, everyone out there, think about in your past, think about all the challenging and difficult times that you were really upset in your life. And then think about the times in your life where you were most joyful. You actually have to try a little bit harder to seek out those joyful times.
Well, your brain stores it differently.
Absolutely, it does. Mm-hmm. And the brain is designed to store negative things so that they can be immediately recalled, mm-hmm. right? Because it is designed for survival. So those times where you were upset, those times you went through something really challenging and difficult and were very emotional about it, your brain has it readily available for you to access it because it wants to prevent you from ever going through a similar situation again. So that's why it is so much more difficult to access those positive times, those times where you're grateful about just being joyful, right?
I'm just thinking about how if I made a list of everything about you that
See?
bothered me,
Ah, it would
how
be a very short list.
but
Not really much. Maybe a bullet point. That's really it.
it travels faster. So like even if you did like 50 things today where you either thought about me or did something for us or something, good, and then you did like one thing that I was like, oh, you slighted me there. That's the one I'm going to know and focus on.
Well, I mean,
And
I
that's what we
think
do.
that's a really big point
how it works.
for couples out there in
Mhm.
relationships. Is it really a lot easier to focus on the negativity that's going on in the relationship than it is to focus on the positivity, right? To focus on the things that are going well and to have gratitude about those positive things. So it's not even just finding the positive things, but then going a step further and being grateful for it.
And it's vulnerable.
It's very so one of the things that we ask couples, when we're working with them personally, is like, what are some positive things that you can say, that you have noticed about your partner? And for a lot of couples, it's very difficult to do that because now you're telling your partner in person, I'm being vulnerable, I'm opening myself up, and I'm letting them know about something that I saw as positive, something that touched me, right? It's a lot easier to be resentful. It's a lot easier to be guarded and to kind of hold that wall up and just not communicate in that way and open up and share in that way.
Right, because one requires you to feel softer and safer.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really terrible at helping each other feel safe in the world. For whatever reason, we're so much more dedicated to helping each other feel on edge or whatever. And especially if people have been at this for a while, they will hold that grudge or that resentment as a way to sort of protect themselves and feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. You still
Yeah.
feel miserable and hurt and you're not protected. It can happen again, right? And again and again.
Tina, she brings up a really good point. So many things that brought those resentful feelings to me later turn out to be things I was grateful for. Absolutely, right? Because hindsight is 2020. We could look back at those things that we were resentful about and then realize now with 2020 hindsight that, oh wow, you know what? I am grateful that happened to me because I learned such a huge lesson from it. It made me the person I am.
Or you try really hard for something that isn't good for you or meant to be. And then when the other thing shows up, so it requires more faith.
Thank you for that point, by the way, Tina.
Thanks, Tina.
That's a really great one. Yeah.
It's that faith that if this goes away, I don't know what's going to happen. But if I hold on to this thing over here, I know for sure what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, the outcome is never something that we could predict, right? No. And it's unknown. And so what we do as human beings, because we're masochists, is that we hold on to the things that may be harmful to us, but we hold on to them because we know it. It's familiar to us. And why let that go for something that's unknown that could be even worse?
So one of the questions that came up was about taking things personally, not taking things
we highly
personally,
recommend it.
The agreement, right? And so how does that factor into being grateful and being less resentful?
I always see people say, everything's going well and I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop. I'm just waiting. But when do we say, boy, everything's going horrible. I'm just waiting for that to turn around and it to be wonderful. And it's kind of like that kind of thing. And the thing with taking things personally is it is personal. It hurts personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not about you that someone did something. They were reactive to something in their own life. But you taking it personally means that you had to pay attention. You had to believe it. That's how we make agreements, right? And so if someone says something to you and you buy into that, Now you own it. Now you've accepted it. You brought it in. So if someone calls you or someone says to you, "Oh, you're so sensitive." You don't know if that was a compliment or a complaint, but if you feel like, "Oh, that might be a weakness of mine," and then you're like, "I shouldn't be so sensitive, and I should, or how dare they are not more compassionate towards me." But if someone came in and they called you a green giraffe, you would just be like, "You need to get your eyes checked. You got an issue going on." You don't take that personally because you don't buy into it. It's that buying into it that makes it feel so personal. And we do that rather quickly because of our domestication. So all the things that we hear as children, before we have any type of way to combat that stuff, those are our hooks. And for whatever reason, we're really good at teaching other people where our hooks are and what to say to us and what's going to respond and what's going to get us to be thinking about and giving energy to them. Because when we don't manage our energy properly, we have energy wars. And if we can get someone towards us, then we think we're winning or we think we're doing it better. But all we're doing is creating an entanglement.
Yeah, anybody who thinks that their past is behind them, that, oh, yeah, I learned it. What my childhood is fine, whatever. It doesn't affect my present tense. Is kind of deluding themselves because it absolutely does. And we have to spend the rest of our adulthood trying to figure it out and trying to put it behind us and working through it because, we are exposed to our primary caregivers at a very vulnerable stage. We are dependent on them for food, shelter, clothing, and emotional safety. And so whatever we are being taught about relationship bonds at that point in time is burned in our brain. That is our first template. So then when we get into future adult relationships, now we're playing that out with our primary partner, and we are trying to figure it out. We're trying to heal it. We're trying to rise above it, evolve beyond it. But it doesn't come without work, And so finding ourselves, here's a good thing. Finding ourselves during this week of Thanksgiving, going back to our family of origin for Thanksgiving dinner. This is a huge trigger for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people, the holiday season, they dread it because now they're going to be around their family of origin, which ultimately it pulls on that old string, right? It plucks that old string for analogy's sake, and it brings up a lot of those old patterns again. And if you are not aware of it, if you are not consciously aware of it, it will infiltrate you pretty quickly. And you'll find yourself doing the same thing you did when you were a kid. You're taking things personally, defending yourself, going into old coping mechanisms because we're hardwired that way. So if that resentment runs deep for past family members or family of origin issues, it's just going to come right to the surface like a geyser without us even knowing about it.
And for sure, it's all you,
It's
it really is.
You should take
And
it personally.
if you take a few minutes before you're going to think about being with your family, and a lot of people, they say, "Oh, I'm going to see my family," and eye roll starts, and this person does this person. But take a minute and think about, who do you want to be when you walk through that door? Are you going to be a little ball of joy and sunshine and happy to see people and set a tone? Or are you going to walk in and be judgmental and critical and fearful and already in a position where here comes our emotional contagion, right? And interestingly, we just had an experience. We went to a wedding in October, my niece's wedding, and it was actually lovely to see my siblings and family. And it hasn't always been that way. And I think I don't know, we're all past 50, so maybe we grew up a little bit.
I would have to say that no one was from the town that the wedding was at.
That's true.
So everyone converged.
Yeah.
And the environment was all neutral. I think that was a factor.
Yeah, but I mean, done
I'm
that
still
before
thinking
too.
about it.
We did that in Guatemala and some other places.
Yeah.
But I think everyone just showed up like in a good place. I don't know. So, but we have control over that. We have control over
How we
how
respond,
we show up.
right?
And
And whether we're going to allow, past programming
Mhm.
to influence us in the same way, right? And it does take a little bit of consciousness, just like it takes consciousness to be grateful.
Yep.
And to realize also that resentment is something that will happen very quickly if you're not conscious of it, and when it happens, you have to consciously dial it back. All right. Gratitude is a practice, resentment is a response
It's a reaction.
and a reaction.
Yeah. So before you figure out your holidays, and especially if you are spending your holidays alone, take some time to decide who you want to be, how you want to feel, and what you want to bring and what do you have for others. If everything was negative, and we live in a pretty wonderful time, even though it's going through a lot of change. But I mean, there were times on this planet when people were at war and people were really being hurt in bad ways, and we don't have a ton to complain about, really. I mean, if you're in a home right now and you're warm and you have food in your belly, or at least in the refrigerator, and you have, maybe you're by yourself, maybe you have company, you probably have health care, you probably have some money in the bank, you probably are safe in this world physically. And just start from there. Is there a roof over your head? There are people that don't have a roof over their head. And it's really a habit we get into, like a really bad habit, to complain. And start being, what's the opposite of a Debbie Downer? Susie Sunshine?
I guess that's what it would be.
And see if you can add some of that light and laughter and love. And we were getting on a plane, talking about planes, and the flight attendant was telling jokes, but we were sitting right where she was telling the jokes, and she just kept telling the same jokes. And she said, well, I just change people, I don't change my jokes. But I've never had that experience before. And what was her go-to joke?
Her go-to joke was, what is a pilot's favorite breakfast? It's a plain bagel. Ha ha. And I said, why did the co-pilot fail his interview? She said, why? I said, because he said he was down to earth. So I gave her some new material.
So you see how safe it is just to lighten things up.
So, think about this when you guys are going into your, family Thanksgiving celebrations, and just think that, gratitude as a practice is something that you have to work at. You have to really look at where you're at in this moment and say, I'm grateful because I'm able to experience this, good or bad. I'm here. I'm supposed to learn something from this experience. And there are some horrific experiences out there where it really takes a lot to be able to find that gratitude. But it is much better than the feeling of resentment.
And we never know if this is our last Thanksgiving.
For sure.
So we're grateful you guys are here with us today, and all the support that you have given Couple Synergy and the Lighthouse.
We're absolutely grateful for all of you. And let us know of any topics that you guys want us to cover. You can follow us on Facebook or YouTube. We are also doing this on LinkedIn as well. We're also on Twitter. And Angie showed this video of the weekend intensive, which is coming up in April 20th to 23rd. So if you want more information about that, you can check us out on our website, couplesynergy.com. Until next time, synergize your life and synergize your love.